Hello everybody and welcome to Women of the NHS Podcast with me, your host, Kate Kelly. This podcast is about celebrating and collaborating with women of the NHS from a variety of backgrounds and roles within the NHS. Within the podcast, we will be informally chatting about their experiences and stories, exploring these women's opinions on medical school, female representation, hopes for the future of a more inclusive NHS, medical conditions that disproportionately affect women, and the nitty-gritty in between. I am excited to be interviewing and working with women in different stages of their career and across different sectors of the NHS. I want this podcast to celebrate women of the NHS and shine a light on the female experience from different perspectives. Today, I am so excited to introduce Dr. Sharon, who has specialised in consultation in emergency medicine. Dr. Sharon, please can you tell me more about your specialism and why you chose this particular specialism?
I chose that because I had an interest from being a child. I was in the St John ambulance. I just loved first aid and emergencies. But then it's a specialty where you get to do things that have an instant effect. You work really quickly. We are supposed to be getting people in and out within 4 hours. So there's no follow-up. It's instant gratification really, and usually very interesting. That's why I chose it. It isn't quite like that all the time now.
Right, yeah, I can imagine. But the expectation is 4 hours.
Oh, 4 hours,
yeah,
to be seen, treated and either dispatched home or referred to a specialty and onto the ward.
How often is that target met, would you say?
Probably at the minute between 60 and 80% of the time.
Okay.
We'll get people home within 4 hours. I mean, we have breach numbers every day.
Yeah.
We used to go for the target is 95%.
Yeah.
But we're just not running at that. You're lucky to be seen within 4 hours at the moment.
Yeah. How did you find medical school?
It was great. I loved it. I did medical school as a mature adult. I'd had children, and I did medicine when I was 18. Went to med school and dropped out in the first year. Then I went away and had my life. I had children, and I went back to a graduate entry programme. And because I had 2 kids at home, I just worked really hard in the day. I was really focused. Went home, did my kids, then did work in the evening. There was no sex and drugs like. Yeah, normal people's degrees.
Is that normal for doctors?
Yeah, I think so.
Really?
Oh yeah, they're just normal people.
You almost have the persona of a doctor though, don't you? Like as a, like super aware of all the consequences, so probably wouldn't.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, I used to think that doctors were all really intelligent and hardworking. No, they're not.
Yeah.
No. Constant disappointment.
Just normal people.
They're just normal people.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Adam Kay.
Yeah.
And he says all that. Yeah. How is your work-life balance?
I would say it's getting better. I'm much better at not really being so ambitious and just being happy to go with the flow. And I come home from work, I don't really carry the day with me. Yeah. I can let it go, and I have a full life. I do lots of fun stuff, and that's mainly because there's no family interfering with me now.
Yeah,
I'm free.
Yeah.
So yeah, work stays in work.
Yeah.
And then life. I'd like more life.
Yeah.
But yeah.
As time goes on, though, hopefully more.
Yes, I keep because I do some extras. I keep waiting for the day when the extras aren't there.
Yeah.
So that I don't have to choose not to do them.
Right.
Because it's nice to have the extra money.
Yeah.
But it would also be nice for them just not to be an option.
Yeah.
So I don't have to, that would give me an extra evening a week or an extra day on a weekend.
Yeah.
But that will come. Yeah.
How has the NHS changed since your time within it?
Since when?
Your time within it.
That's a big question. I think people working in it have changed a lot. So it's hard to know what's changed. The NHS as a whole, or the people in it. Obviously, the attitudes of the people in it. It used to be that when I was a trainee, say, I would go to work and I would stay late if we needed to stay late. No, before I was in A&E and I was just in medicine, if the ward round carried on, if you did a night shift, you may start at 10 o'clock and you're supposed to be going home at 9 o'clock the next day, but often the ward round would be going till 10 or 11 or 12. Then you go home, go to sleep, go back to work at 10 o'clock that night. And we never made any fuss about that. We may grumble a bit, well, there's not enough time to sleep, but you just did it.
Yeah.
You did things that were outside of your remit, really, just to get things done. And I don't know if it was just me or if everybody worked like that, but I feel like people did. You gave of yourself quite a lot. And I feel that now people don't do that. They come to work, start at 8. If I was on an 8 o'clock start, I'd be in at 7:30 getting the list ready for the consultants so that when they came at 8, it was all ready to go.
Right, yeah.
There's no way a junior today would do that. They'd be there at 8.
Yeah.
And not a minute before. They will go on time. If they don't go on time, they'll claim their time back.
Yeah.
They will just do what's in their role.
Yeah.
Very boundaried, much more boundaried. So much less goodwill.
Right.
So I think the NHS used to work a lot on goodwill.
Yeah.
And gradually, with pressures being placed on staff, that goodwill's been eroded.
Right.
Like and me now, if you ask me to do something, I'll just say, no, that's outside of my job plan. I'm not squeezing that into what is already a full working day.
Yeah.
So, and that means that there's whole loads of work that aren't being done because there aren't people to do it.
Yeah.
And we're not prepared anymore to give from our own time.
Yeah.
Which is, it's probably a good thing, but so I think a change in the vocation. Medicine used to be considered vocational. Now people say, well, that's just an excuse to exploit me.
Right.
If it's a vocation, I'm vulnerable to exploitation.
Yeah.
It's not a vocation, it's a professional job.
Yeah.
And therefore we should be acknowledged in the same way as, say, a lawyer.
Yeah.
Who doesn't work for free.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There've been massive cutbacks in beds. So huge in the emergency department. We have huge, it's called exit block, huge issues where we can't get patients who are destined for the medical ward. We can't get them out of our department and onto the wards, which means that we can't get fresh patients into the department, which means the patients waiting in ambulances.
Right.
Or waiting in the waiting room for excessive amounts of time, and that has a big consequence for their care. People die.
Yeah.
Basically, and the reason we can't get them out of the department into the wards is because the ward beds are full of people who are fit to go home, but they can't go home because they need a package of care, or they need to go into a care home, and there's no social services.
Yeah.
So the last time we had a crisis, the medical director said, I've got 80 fit for discharge. And no, we can't get them out.
Wow.
So 80 patients sitting in hospital while we've got 80 patients in the department needing a bed.
Yeah.
Ah.
I remember when my granddad was in hospital and he was falling down constantly. He was in and out of hospital, and it was. I remember that issue. He was ready to be discharged, and the doctors had all said, "Oh, he's ready to go," but they didn't have that specific package.
Yes.
Yeah, and the social worker hadn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need a raised toilet seat.
Yeah.
We need a bath handle.
Yeah.
There needs to be a key safe. And for these things, they don't go home.
Yeah.
Or, the family aren't happy to have them back. Or the family aren't happy with that care home. So we can't. Yeah. And everybody's so scared of repercussions. If you send somebody home without a toilet seat,
right,
and then they fall, then that's your fault.
The doctor's fault.
The doctor's fault who's discharged them, knowing that, somebody said they need a raised toilet seat. But can they not go for one day without that toilet seat?
Yeah.
Yes, let's risk it. Then they have a fall, then that's our fault.
Right.
But never mind the person who's sitting in the back of the ambulance having seizures.
Yeah, yeah.
Who can't even get in and be treated because that person can't get out because of their toilet seat. Yeah. Something happens between the front door. When you're really, really sick and you need the most care, you don't get it because somebody who's been treated and is just occupying a bed has sort of bagged their place, as it were.
Yeah.
Because we can't get them home.
Right.
The one in the ambulance suffers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's so frustrating for us as emergency medicine doctors.
Are you guys having to go out into the ambulances?
That's a really tricky thing to do. Some hospitals do it. We don't, because that's not our place. That's not our working environment. It's the back of an ambulance is a very specific environment.
Yeah.
That's where the paramedics work.
Yeah.
And if you start to take ownership of people out there, they're then your responsibility.
Wow.
But you can't deliver what you're trained to deliver, which is hospital-based care.
Wow.
It's pre-hospital medicine.
Yeah.
Until they come in the door.
I see. So some people might have to just wait and potentially be left because they can't get in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every now and then we change the way we do things. So 2 or 3 years ago, we would take them all in and put them in the external corridor.
Yeah.
And you would have a few ambulance crews and maybe a couple of nurses out there looking after them, doing observations. And then it was deemed unacceptable to have people in the corridor.
Yeah.
So they waited in the ambulances. And we went, but no, that's even worse because we can't even see them.
Yeah.
So then we now do this thing called cohorting. So they go to a different part of the department and they're one ambulance crew will stay and look after 4 patients on ambulance trolleys until we can move them in.
So the other ambulances can go.
So the other ones can go and see the people who are at home on the floor.
Yeah.
And things like that. So, and then LAS would say, that's London Ambulance Service, they'd say, actually we're not prepared to wait longer than 45 minutes with our patients. And so currently they dump their patient.
Right.
Anywhere.
Just
not in inside.
Yeah.
But not in a bed space, not in a cohorting area. Just leave them. And we're like,
oh my gosh.
Got to find somewhere to put them. And the reason that we've not been able to put them anywhere is because there is no space.
Yeah.
But every day we find space. They move out, and we had 14 waiting in ambulances and 10 patients in our resus the other day, and our resus takes 4 adult patients.
Right.
So doubling up beds and putting a couple here, and that was the worst it's been this year so far. It's not even winter; it's not even cold.
Yeah.
So that will get worse. But then you come in 2 days later. There's nobody waiting. everybody's been seen.
Yeah.
You think ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
It's very unpredictable.
Right. But I guess the only time you can predict it's going to get worse is, like you say, in the winter.
Yeah, except winter never stops. Last year it didn't stop. Winter just carried on.
Oh.
The pressure.
Yeah.
We call it winter pressures.
Yeah.
But actually, when you get to May and nothing's let up,
right.
you think, is it winter pressures? It's just constant.
Yeah. This is just how it is now.
This is just how it is.
Yeah.
All the time.
Wow. Have you been affected by the strike action, and then what are your thoughts on it?
I have, yes. So the strikes have affected, there's been the junior doctors and then the consultants. We've both struck. What's the word? Struck. So when the striked, we've both. So when the juniors have been striking, all the care has been delivered by consultants in the emergency department because we can't close.
Yeah,
that would be unethical. So the consultant body and some locum doctors have provided the service. So during the strike days, I've worked so hard.
Yeah.
Because it was really quite hard work being a junior doctor.
Yeah.
It's easier for us because we can be quicker and we can make the decisions ourselves, and we're a little bit slicker than the trainees who are seeing people, so we get through the work and it's generally quite satisfying, and it's actually quite good fun to go and work with your colleagues in a different way, sort of actually seeing and doing rather than consulting and supervising.
Right.
So they're really hard work but quite good fun.
Yeah.
But it's not sustainable for us to do it all the time because we're basically too old.
Yeah.
And it's really physical. You spend a lot of time running around. It makes you realise how inefficient a lot of systems are as well.
Right.
But it has to be that way because you've got to have juniors and everything. And then the consultant strikes. I've taken time off. I've striked.
Yeah.
One day I didn't. The last lot I didn't because we were delivering an emergency, a Christmas Day level service, which for the emergency department is almost a normal. So all the juniors were working, so it wasn't going to have any impact. We weren't going to be making any points.
Yeah.
So we had work. We had a lot of backlog, so I worked that one. Do I agree with them? Yes, I do. If you take my old self at the beginning, I was grateful to be a doctor and I was grateful to have a job, and I thought that I was paid reasonably well. And I would never have done it when I was, maybe 10, 12 years ago. But when you actually look at the figures and what inflation has done, cost of living and the actual real-time loss in earnings, it's massive. And I think across all areas, doctors have been pretty much the worst off. Not to say that we're not well paid, we are, compared to a lot of people, but the effort that's gone into education and training and the responsibility means that we should be paid properly.
Yeah.
We should be paid well. I mean, it is life and death often. The you're constantly at risk of making mistakes. You go through all your exams and you go through life you're allowed to be wrong occasionally. An exam pass mark might be 65%, but all of a sudden you come out at the other end and you're expected to be 100% all the time.
Yeah.
And if you miss one thing, people will start to write complaint letters. If something goes wrong, this is your fault. That's devastating for doctors.
Yeah.
And that's a constant pressure. Of people come into the office and go, I've got a new complaint, and I just, was it me? What do I do? No, phew.
So there's patients.
Patients complain, yeah. Patients complain if they didn't get given a sandwich, or, if they think their doctor was, dismissive of their non-illness. Because a lot of patients don't have anything wrong with them.
Yeah.
A lot of patients have got other problems that aren't actually medical.
Yeah.
A lot of patients can be vexatious. Make repeated complaints, make things really personal, but we still have to respond to them all.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like you have to justify yourself so often.
Yeah. Have you or a colleague ever experienced sexism, homophobia or racism in the workplace?
Yeah. Capital. Yes.
Capital
Yes.
Y.
Capital Y, yes. Yes. Yes, massively.
Yeah.
And like we were saying earlier, they don't even know they're doing it.
Yeah.
Which is the frustrating thing.
Mm.
So yeah, the sexism and then the gaslighting on top when you try to point out, actually what you just did there was this, and no we didn't. No, you've got that wrong.
Yeah.
Another thing that happens if I report a problem, I've come in and said, this has just happened. I think we've got an issue, and instead of the issue or the problem being addressed, the response of the person I've told it to is to attack me.
Right.
And say, well, what have you done about it? Why did you say that? What did you...
Yeah.
It's, actually, that's not... I'm just going to rewind and not report this problem.
Yeah.
Because it's obviously my fault.
Yeah.
And that's a default reaction quite a lot of the time.
Would they have that same reaction to a man?
I don't know, because I don't see it so much from that point of view. But it's just all part of the gaslighting.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah.
and then when you say that word to them, it's like no, or they don't even know what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how someone wouldn't know that word now. Like.
Yeah. Yeah, like this. I've told you something, and instead of saying thanks, I'll deal with it, it's, well, why were you in that situation?
Mm.
Like, a sexual harassment case.
Yeah.
Where, a junior has made an allegation against a senior. She went into a cubicle to be taught how to do something, and he was inappropriate.
Right.
The immediate response is, well, why did you go in with him?
Yeah.
Rather than, don't worry, we'll sort this out.
Yeah. Are
you okay?
Yeah.
Just for example. But yeah, the tendency to undermine is also very strong. Like if you get upset about something, they will, on more than one occasion, people take the piss and say, oh, why are you whining about this? It's, I just do this. I respond to this in this way. The number of times in our department, the consultant in charge always sits in one place, so it's pretty much known that that's where the consultant sits. So consultant in charge here, nurse in charge here. The number of people that come up to me and ask me for bedpans, urine bottles, where can I get a pillow, where can I get a blanket, thinking that I'm a nurse,
right?
Because I'm female.
Yeah. Even
other doctors, or they'll come in and say, oh yeah, I'm looking for the consultant in charge. So yeah, speaking to them.
Yeah.
Sorry. Like, clearly they were looking for a man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And a reluctance to take direction from a female is often
Really?
the way. From juniors from other specialties will often be very reluctant to kind of do as they're told.
Yeah.
If you're just explaining what a pathway is, or this is the protocol here.
Yeah.
No, I don't have to do that just because you say so.
Right.
Which I don't know if it's a generational thing or a sexism thing.
Yeah.
But as I'm female, I can only see it from, and I don't see it happening to my male colleagues because I'm not them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I often think it's because I'm female.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel medicine disproportionately affects women with regards to medical conditions?
Oh. Well, I guess women's health obviously massively misunderstood from puberty to the end, yeah. Very little attention given to menstrual problems, menorrhagia pain. It's all kind of, we just crack on with that. I mean, is it a medical problem? Sometimes, yes. Ovarian torsion. So that's testicular torsion is a medical emergency. So a testicle gets twisted.
Yeah.
It's an emergency because they will lose that testicle
Right.
if it's not untorted within 6 hours, say. So a man comes in, pain in my buttocks. They are straight to the front of the queue. They get seen by urologists. They're in theatre within 2 hours of arrival.
Wow.
In an ideal world, or in the olden days, maybe not quite so much now.
Yeah.
Woman comes in with pain, which could be an ovarian torsion, and they sit and they wait and they're given some painkillers and they get seen, and then they may get a referral to gynae, and they may come and they do a scan. They may make it to theatre if they see something, but it's not a 6 hour window.
Right.
It's much slower. There's no direct pathway. There's no immediate. Maybe because our ovaries are in our bodies.
Yeah.
But ovarian torsion is there's lots of characteristics, like a sudden collapse, really excruciating pain.
Yeah.
It should be flagged up there as this is very likely, but the pathway is not there.
Right.
So same organ.
Yeah.
Different gender, and the ovary dies just as much as the testicle does.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's just left.
So it's a definite inequality. Yeah.
Wow. And that the woman will then, I suppose, not be able to have a child? Or?
Well, she'll still have her other ovary.
Oh,
hopefully.
okay. But I suppose he'd still have
But
his
it's
other testicle.
half the chance.
Right.
Yeah, they've got another testicle. It could be testicles are on the outside, they're more prone to damage, it's more frequent, therefore it's worth making a pathway for.
Right. They should be less clumsy.
Yeah. Well, other things would be, I suppose, bone health. That's not my bag, I don't know about that a lot. Menopause. Well, women are just mocked, aren't they? Once you start getting sweaty.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly comments made about my age, because I'm one of the older. There's like 3 of us who are in our 50s in the group. The rest are quite a lot younger, and they think it's okay to tease, like, oh, you'll probably remember this, back in the 1920s.
Right. Yeah.
Just general ribbing, but yeah, I wouldn't dare say anything in the office about the temperature or anything that I could be attacked for. They would use, woman of a certain age, are we? That would be definitely a target for mocking.
Even though it's like
Yeah, happens to everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, no, definitely. You just wouldn't go there. Just wouldn't go there.
Wow.
Yeah, and I don't think much attention is paid to that in terms of female population and presenting with other problems. A lot of medicine is not actually physical. I think there's an awful lot is emotional, or lifestyle problems that manifest physically, but the root problem is not physical. It's somatising. It's a massive area which you have one lesson on in medical school,
right?
And then you spend the rest of your life going, why is this person here? There's nothing wrong with them.
Yeah.
And why are they here again? Why are they back in with the constant headaches, but there's nothing wrong? Why are they? And it's other stuff.
Right.
And I think that probably disproportionately affects women as well.
Yeah.
Men would be more likely to indulge in alcohol and destructive behaviours, but women become sick.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Thank you for listening to Women of the NHS podcast. I would just like to thank again Dr. Sharon for her time and conversation, and for being on the Women of the NHS podcast. I would also like to thank Jemima Grosset for her beautiful music production, turning my vision into sound. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.